This is a very easy quilt to make. When it's finished, is 32 by 48.
And what makes this quilt so simple and easy is it's just 24 little padded squares.
You will need an 8.5 by 8.5 piece of cardboard. That's going to be your pattern. You're going to need to have some kind of a cute little design that goes on here and of course fits in the middle. The original pattern that my mom had was a butterfly, but we decided it would be really cute to do the moons. You can draw anything that you want. Each square is 8.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and then after it's sewn together, they become 8 inches by 8 inches. You will need to get fabric for the backing that needs to be 51 inches by 34 inches. So if you find a fabric that is over 51 inches wide, you'll only need 1 yard.
And I'll be listing all of the supplies in the description below.
So you would just need 1/2 yard of your black and 1/2 yard of your white, as long as the fabric is over 51 inches wide. If not, you'd have to get 3/4 yard of the black and 3/4 yard of the white. We used an off-white flannel.
And then you're going to need your quilt batting, and you can get it at any fabric store, either in a bag or in a roll.
And then of course, whatever embroidery thread, we chose off-white.
And then we chose black to sew the blanket together. So before you start, you're just going to need to cut out your fabric. You'll cut out 12 black squares, 12 white squares, or whatever fabric you choose. And then you're going to cut out 24 of the squares for whatever backing you choose. And you will cut out 24 pieces of the quilt batting and 12 of whatever pattern you decide, moons, hearts, flowers, whatever you choose.
Okay, so the first thing my mom is doing is she has cut out her little square and she's pinned the moon on, and now she's going to be embroidering the moon onto the square. That's your first thing.
Usually your embroidery floss comes in 6 strands, so you half it, so you get 3 strands. There. And then you just...
And there you go. I can't believe this. My mom has eyes good enough to see a needle with no glasses.
And then you put a little knot on the end so it'll stay in place. And then after you have pinned this on, you start at the top. And you just do a simple slip stitch along the edge. And this is a good thing to do if you're watching TV at night and want something to do with your hands.
And you want to kind of keep it a little closer together because, as you see, she did not fold the edge over at all. She's actually embroidering this just right on the raw edge.
Keep doing along the edge.
Because it's flannel, huh?
With its flannel, you can do it this way. If it were cotton, you'd have to do underneath.
Okay.
But with the flannel,
you'd have to fold it over if you did regular fabric. So doing
flannel, but with this, it's hard to
together. Okay.
It's hard to fold under a moon. Especially with the nose and the mouth. Right here, it's going to be eyelashes. So when you get to this, you just cut this off and you just do a stitch like this, maybe about 3 stitches. And then you just turn it around and do the other eyelash. And then you just continue where you were going and just continue stitching.
Okay. And those are the little eyelashes. Very cute. Remember, this is supposed to look handmade, so you don't have to be really critical about perfect stitching, because that's really what gives it that look of being homemade and just that lost art of people taking the time to make something by hand. So now that we have one of these embroidered, what are we going to do now, Mom?
We put this right sides together like this.
Almost like you're sewing a pillowcase.
And then you put your batting over top.
And then you're going to sew 3 sides like this. Now, what is this stitch? This is an interesting stitch because it looks like it's overlapping.
It's called a back stitch. And this just makes it stronger than a regular sewing stitch. So then you're going back over where you went, and that just makes it a stronger hold.
And it might be easier than sewing on a sewing machine when you're dealing with quilt batting.
And then what you do is you just take it.
We have our little pillow, and it needs to get stitched closed.
I just take and fold this part down and fold this part down. And then I usually take and pin it as I go along so it'll stay in place.
I have the best mommy. She's taught me so much. She used to have us sit and embroider at night and play games instead of watching TV. And I still say to this day that's one of the reasons that I learned how to be so creative and do some of the things I do, is because of this very amazing mom.
This is definitely a labor of love.
You can quilt while you're watching TV. Mm-hmm. So here she's just using just regular polyester thread. So you could take a sewing machine and just really closely stitch that together.
You could, yes.
Rather than doing it by hand. Okay, so 2 options.
See a few stitches, but that's going to be covered with the embroidery floss when we put it together.
And then after you have slip stitched it together, then you're going to have a cute little pillow. And now it's time to put this pretty little thing together.
And it's very important to remember that when you're sewing the pieces together, you're going to be making 6 rows. So you're going to make 3 rows of 4 starting with the white and 3 rows of 4 starting with the black. That way you'll have alternating rows when you sew your strips together.
I take the embroidery floss and get out a length that I want, and then there's 6 strands in there, but I only use 3, so I divide it in half. So this is 3 strands, half of a thing.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with embroidery floss, you just get it at your craft store. I think most people who are going to be making this quilt know embroidery floss. So this is embroidery floss, and it has 6 strings. So what she does is she just divides it. Is that a special kind of a stitch? It's sort of making a loop inside the stitch.
Yeah, it
isn't
is.
So she's doing...
It's the blanket stitch. You just take, it starts over here, and then you just go right here on this side and catch an
where
edge.
the thread is. When you pull the thread, I notice there's something different about where the thread goes.
And the thread goes behind the needle.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of makes the loop.
Oh.
And this kind of holds it a little bit stronger than just a plain stitch. It's going to be 4 rows across and 6 rows down. Got 5 rows, and I'll do the top row and then put them all together.
So once you stitch all of the front together, you're going to turn the blanket over and you're going to repeat the same blanket stitch on the back.
Nothing has been machine stitched. This whole thing has been done by hand. Oh, and we are finished. So it was blanket stitched here together. And then the same stitching was done on the back.
Yeah,
so
but you can't see it because it's all black.
yeah, it just kind of blends in, which is nice. So here's the back of it. And there it is. Ready to go into the box. That's for your little cousin River. Are you going to make that your home? My cats always have to be in the movies, huh?
Well, the quilt made it safely to my mom's new grandson, River, also my nephew. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can make one of these lovely, amazing quilts for yourself. And if you like this video, please subscribe and hit the bell button. That way you can be notified of new videos that I am going to be making.